so much time for it now, but I did just want to recommend an excellent book, also on the cultivation of love for others. But it's called A Fearless Heart by Thupten Jinpa. It's wonderful. And it has many practical exercises by which we can generate love for ourselves and others. And I'm very happy that it's now become the basis of a course out of Stanford University. Because at the beginning, when people got interested in meditation in the West, it was all mindfulness, a lot of mindfulness stuff, because that was seen as being unreligious and secular. But here now they're doing stuff with actual compassion training, also on a secular basis, but they've seen a lot of good results in training the mind in compassion. So how do we do that? My segue. Now, here I'll just give you one traditional explanation, and that is, right, again, we identify love as the wish for someone to be happy, okay? So start with yourself, and then you think about all the different happiness that you want, think about all the happiness that you lack, and then just generate a wish for you to be happy, okay? For many of us, that will be easy, right? Then they say to slowly build out your circle of concern. You don't start with may all beings be happy, because we're all beings. It's too nebulous. So they suggest starting with 3 people. A loved one, like your mother or someone that you feel a strong connection with. A stranger, maybe, anyone, and then a enemy, if you have one. If you don't have an enemy, then someone who is annoying to you, or someone that doesn't evoke a strong sense of warmness and closeness, okay? All right, so you would visualize those 3 people in front of you, just at an imagination level. And then, in relation to your mother, you do the same meditation on love. You think of all the various happiness that she lacks and wish her to have happiness. You have already done it in relation to yourself, so use that as a benchmark or a baseline and see, can you generate as strong feelings of love for your mother as you can yourself? Until that happens, continue to meditate. And here, remember, we talked about yesterday analytic meditation. This is one kind of analytic meditation, but it's the meditation where we actually make our mind arise in the aspect of love. Okay? All right. Then, once we've done that in relation to our mother, then we can go on to the neutral person, and then the enemy. Sometimes for the enemy, before we can develop love, we have to do the forgiveness. So what we talked about earlier in separating that actor from the action, seeing how they were propelled by their afflictive emotions, and therefore develop some level of forgiveness. The other thing that is helpful in this context is to understand the impermanence. And sometimes we have a very fixed view about people, and like for me, there was someone who, when I was 18, punched me, right? He was on my football team anyway. He punched me, totally unjustified, believe me. And then, for so many years after that, whenever I thought of him, I had this very negative thought, right? I thought he was, whatever. And that became very fixed, right? But actually, then, it's what? 20 years later? Who knows what he would be like today, right? And when I was 18, yeah, I was a major a-hole, right? And hopefully I've gotten a little bit better, right? So then I thought, wow, these people, I would insult people, I made, these people cry or whatever, and then could they be holding on to a fixed view of me, right? So just kind of loosen this strong identification as this person as being an enemy and 100% bad, right? Who knows what they're like now? Actually, I was very surprised. Did you ever watch have you heard of the film Anger Management? It's this like stupid American comedy, anyway, with, I think, Adam Sandler and Jack Nicholson. Right? Jack Nicholson?
No.
Huh? Who?
Al Pacino and
De Niro. De Niro.
One of the
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro and Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler, okay,
Right.
nice. Anyway, at one point, he had to go back and like find the person that he was angry from high school. And this guy actually had become a Buddhist monk. I was like, wow. Anyway. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we don't know what these people are like today. So also just loosen our stance of they're 100% bad from their side. Okay? Then you can meditate on love for them. And it's very, there's a saying that for the very most intelligent, right, sharpest faculty, disciples or trainees, that just the mere thought that everyone is equal in wanting to be happy and wanting to avoid suffering, that's all they need to contemplate, right? And then everything else comes very naturally. I think it's very profound, actually. I think some of you have some experience coming here, so I'll just mention for you, right? There's the 2 ways to generate bodhicitta, the 7-point cause and effect instructions, right? And the equalizing and exchanging yourself for others. The 7-point cause and effect instructions, the first step is recalling all sentient beings have been your mother. And then remembering their kindness, wishing to repay their kindness, developing love, compassion, the extraordinary aspiration, and then bodhicitta, right? So that whole strategy is based on remembering how sentient beings have been kind to us and therefore are worthy of love, right? But the equalizing and exchanging self for others starts from the entirely different point that all sentient beings are equal in wanting happiness and avoiding suffering. And that is enough reason to want them to be free from suffering. Wow. Not just they've been kind to me, but actually even the mere fact that they're a sentient being, that means they're kind to me. Even and especially those ones that harm us, because they give us the opportunity to practice patience, tolerance, forgiveness, which are, as Shantideva said, right, that, there's so many poor people in the world, and they don't act as a obstacle for our practice of generosity, right? But the number of enemies is, relatively few, right? But they don't act as an obstacle for our practice of patience, right? And furthermore, he says, if everyone treated us like they were a Buddha, we would have no opportunity to practice patience. So in this way, it's like those enemies, and maybe, I would hope, if we look in our lives, we might have, if we have it all, maybe 2 or 3 some small number, right? Is that right? Yeah? Wow. They're the most precious because they give us an opportunity to practice like no one else in the world has. Isn't it? Wow. Anyway, I think that's very, 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 very rich. I recommend everyone to, look into the Bodhisattva Charyavatara. There's lifetimes worth of contemplation there. And if you don't believe me, even His Holiness Dalai Lama said that everything he's learned about bodhicitta, he learned from Bodhisattva Charyavatara. So now you guys are writing down the title. That happened to me in Bangalore, Shanti, where like I mentioned this stanza from Nagarjuna, right? Like anyway, I mentioned this stanza from Nagarjuna. And then I said, and this is the stanza that His Holiness the Dalai Lama recites the first thing he wakes up in the morning. And then 3 people are like, oh, what was that stanza again? Anyway, I wasn't hurt. But subsequent to that, I always, I like to do we got to do the name dropping. If it's just me saying something, it's like, okay. The stanza, right, is the last, it's actually the last stanza of Nagarjuna's Fundamental Wisdom. Enthused by great compassion, you taught dependent arising to overcome all wrong views. To Gautam Buddha I prostrate. Anyway. Okay, so, we're running out of time. So let me just, right, we talked about attachment, we talked about developing love and self-love. Ooh, jealousy. Jealousy? Is that a problem for some of us? Okay, I have other things to say, but I will just make a quick thing about jealousy. Okay? Jealousy, envy, we look at someone else and we see them as being whatever, better off than us, or they have the girl we want to be with, they have the something that we don't have, and therefore we have envy. Okay? So, one thing, this is just very basic for those of us who are at least paying lip service to wanting to be Mahayana practitioners, right? I want to become fully enlightened so I can liberate all sentient beings from suffering and lead them to the state of enlightenment. Okay? Right? So we say that, and then, we get passed up for the promotion, and our coworker gets the promotion and not us, and then we totally freak out. What is that? Right? We want this person to be perfect, enlightened Buddha that all the sentient beings will then worship and adore. And then they get the VP promotion first, and we're like, what is that? Right? So here again, Shantideva is saying, if we want someone to be, if we want someone to become a Buddha, worshipped by all beings in the 3 realms, and then we have contempt for them for getting some mere small worldly happiness, could there be anything more vile? Well, maybe there can, but it's not good. Right? So the main attitude, right, that's a antidote to this mind of jealousy is rejoicing, right? We want all beings to be happy. And that happiness is everything from experiencing some nice AC on a hot day, right? All the way to full enlightenment. right? So everything in the middle, we can develop happiness. It's great. Wow, okay, you got the promotion, good. This year, okay, I've been expanding my horizons a bit this year, okay? And one thing I did a bit of research into is, exercise and working out. I think I might have used a few exercise analogies in our talks together. But anyway, I came across this documentary from the 1970s about Arnold Schwarzenegger, okay? All right. No, it was another one, but anyway, yeah. Stay Hungry. Pumping Iron is very good. Yeah. Anyway, for this one, he was at a bodybuilding competition, and there's the amateur bodybuilding competition is Mr. Universe, and then the professional bodybuilder is Mr. Olympia. Anyway, so it was at the same place, and there is someone who's competing in the Mr. Universe. And he was a school teacher from Connecticut in the US. And anyway, first they show him with his family and he's working out, and then they follow him down. And then anyway, they show all the pose down and all this. And anyway, he didn't win. He got into 4th place, right? But his kind of rival won. And his rival, they showed the rival actually like taking away some of his clothes out of his locker, right? To kind of like mess with his head. Anyway, his rival was like, I don't know, kind of not nice to him. But when it was announced that his rival had won, he just said, "Oh wow, that's so great. I can imagine what he must be feeling right now. I gotta go shake his hand and congratulate him." And I was just so impressed. I was not expecting it at all from this kind of like bodybuilding movie. But that thought is like precisely the answer, right? We imagine this thought of empathy, putting ourselves in someone else's shoes and thinking, wow, they must be so happy to win. Just as I've been training so much to get this victory, to win, okay, imagine how happy I would have been if I won. Well, that person, the other person who's won that, they're feeling that very happiness. Wow, imagine what they must be feeling. I'm going to congratulate him. Isn't it so amazing? I was so impressed. That thought, I think, is so much more precious and so much more difficult to develop than being able to bench press 300 pounds or whatever he does. So anyway, I was rejoicing for him. And the other thing with rejoicing, we get this thought. They say, rejoicing. When you rejoice in the virtuous actions of others, you get part of the merit, right? Okay. Whether or not that is the case, just training your mind like this is beneficial. And the point is, when we rejoice in others' good qualities or good deeds, that makes us more likely to do them in the future. And that's, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do, Someone, who we see, they've lost, 5 kilos. Wow, it's great. You look like you've gotten in shape. And then it might motivate us to do the same thing, right? It gives us positive examples of how we can change. So, okay. The other thing I just wanted to mention about jealousy is it's a very slippery slope when we start to compare ourselves to others, right? And instead, I think it's more useful to compare ourselves to ourself 1 year ago. There is a very brilliant comedian, Jerry Seinfeld, right? who did this thing. We just finished the Olympics, but this was after the last Olympics in London, you know. He had this thought, this comedy bit, where he was saying getting the silver medal is the worst thing in the world, right? It's not, right? But he was saying it is, and the point is, you know, if you get gold, okay, right, you're number one. If you get bronze, well, at least you got something. But silver, you know, you're gonna have to field these questions, like what happened? What happened? And especially in some of these competitions, like the 100-meter dash, right? It's like the difference. It's like, you know, first, second, third, right? It's like 0.04 tenths of a second determines, right? I think this is a brilliant thing. Excuse me. But he'll say, you know, it comes down to the photo finish, you know, the photo finish. This thing. This is Jerry Seinfeld, not me. His brilliance. But he'll say, you know, it comes down to the photo finish where it's like, you know, first, second, third, last. Greatest guy in the world, never heard of him. Right? So, if you look, right, this is something a little bit insane about our society with this, like, you know, gotta be number one. If you looked honestly across the whole of, you know, Homo sapiens in history, right, these Olympic runners today, they would be, you know, in the 99.999 percentile, right? Right? In 10 seconds, you know, like 0.04 seconds is like a rounding error, right? It's nothing. Yet, that one, the number one, is so praised, you know? They come home after, you know, the Olympics. There's like thousands of people waiting at the airport with signs and balloons and everything, right? So here, you know, if we look at it, even that person in 10th place came in last at the Olympics, how do we look at that? They still were an Olympic athlete, and maybe, except for those other 9 people, anyone else they would race, they would beat, right? So out of, you know, 7 billion people, they're like number 10 in the world. That's like freaking amazing, actually. But, you know, it's that, never heard of them. What does that say about our society? So in our own lives, we have to just be you know, one of my teachers said that all of Buddhism is about being the happy number 2. Very interesting, isn't it? So, in any case, when we have these external, we're seeking external verification or validation, we've already made a big mistake, right? And even, you know, since so many things are outside of our control, we should try to focus on things in our control, remember? So even something like okay, yes, we want to get in shape, is good. But rather than thinking, oh, I got to, I don't know, lose this many kilos or bench press this much or run this fast, you know, just try to be the person that doesn't skip a workout, right? Right? If we have the thought that, you know, I need to get first, second, or third in this competition that's out there, right? Then it's out of our control. But have we done our best? Have we trained well? Have we done what we needed to do? If so, great. And then, no attachment to the results. Okay, time is up. But let me just see if I have anything else. Okay, I wanted to just make a few little comments about bringing Dharma into daily life. Yeah. Now, we've talked about this weekend how to cultivate a daily meditation practice. Yeah? And also how to work with the big afflictive emotions that give us a lot of problems. Now, we also, it'd be good if we could study a bit. Okay? Sorry. It's not all just fun and games. But these texts, written by the great masters, they're all just discussing the various antidotes to afflictions and ways to cultivate positive emotions. Right? And so the more knowledge we have about this, then the more tools we'll have in our toolkit. I just gave you a few that I hope has been a benefit to you, but don't be satisfied with that. Okay? And then on a practical level, on a daily basis, if you can, you go through some of these texts and even read 2-3 pages, right? No problem. And if you can do that, say in the morning, then the rest of your day, maybe think about, what did I read this morning? This is what we do in the monasteries, and it's very beneficial. When we go through the text, we do something very little, 2-3 pages a day, and then think critically about it. This is not like reading Harry Potter books. You're not trying to, race and try to finish it in one weekend, but rather a slow, maybe read it a few times. Understand what the main arguments are. Understand how the beginning of the text, relates to the end of the text. Understand how, this presentation relates to other things that you've been reading. Okay? And, then when you have questions, you're very fortunate to be in a place, in a community like this. You can bring those questions to the center and then ask Venerable Kabir, Venerable Samten, great scholar in her own right. Also, up at Tibet House, you're very blessed to have Geshe Dandu. And anyway, make use of it. Okay? Yeah. Okay. I wanted to give you guys some time for questions. But maybe the last thing is just always focus on what Dharma is. Dharma is about becoming a better person. So even all the philosophical texts, don't go the other extreme and make the Dharma about like learning all these complicated philosophies and then it have no impact on your life. Okay? So whatever small things you learn, try to put them into practice right away. And when we focus on, the motivation of being of utmost benefit to others, and if we can't benefit others, at least not harm them, and we at least try to live our lives by that, I think your life will be better, the lives of the people around you will be better, and that will make the world better. Okay? So thank you very much. I'll now open it up to questions, if you have them. And if not, yes?
This is a very small clarification. The linguistics, not really the content. Now, normally in the Buddhist text, they always use the emotion of anger, emotion of. But in the psychology, they are very often using the feeling of anger. Okay, so my question is that are they synonymous? Number one, or is emotion necessarily used for the negative and like the feeling for the positive in the Buddhism, like when we say the feeling of happiness, feeling of loving kindness.
Yeah.
So just the linguistic clarification.
Yeah. So did you hear his question? He's asking a linguistic question about when we talk about, in the Buddhist context, anger, it is an emotion. And psychology, in the psychological context, they talk about the feeling of anger. So are we talking about the same thing, or are we talking about something different? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I am very nervous about these linguistic questions because in a certain context, then words can be used in a different way. And I'm not so expert in anything, but especially Western psychology, I don't know what exactly they're talking about when they would say feeling of anger, okay? But I do know in the traditional Buddhist context coming out of Abhidharma, when they talk about feeling, it just means the three. There's either a happy feeling, or a pleasurable feeling, a neutral feeling, or a unpleasant feeling. Okay? So this is more like a physical sensation that is either pleasant or unpleasant. And this feeling is one of the so-called omnipresent mental factors, right? So that feeling accompanies every single mind. Omnipresent means accompanying every single main mind. Okay? So, if I, so to answer one of your other questions, an emotion doesn't need to be negative, right? There are positive emotions like love and so forth, right? But how a mental factor corresponds to an emotion, a mental factor in Buddhist psychology corresponds to an emotion in Western psychology, I don't want to be too rigid with a definition. Because, yeah, I don't know as much as I want to about Western psychology. But I hope when you understand, right, the feeling of anger, I think, when we talk about it in a psychological context, is, you know, when we have anger or another emotion arise in our continuum, right, how it, on the worldly context, how it feels. Is that how they talk about it? I'm not sure. But that would be distinguished between, you know, the feeling that accompanies a mind of anger. Have I confused you or have I helped you?
Venerable, are anger and jealousy interrelated? Because some people know the fine art of creating jealousy in others, and that creates anger in the other person. So, can we say that jealousy and anger are interrelated?
You know, they hang out together, right? But you can have, they often, you know, they like each other, right? So, but you can have one and not the other. So they're not like, you know, necessarily correlated. But definitely it does happen with jealousy. You then, especially when you think that someone's success is undeserved, right? Then the thought of anger, you kind of, you know, blame them and then want to harm them. Or even, you know, you think when they do encounter some misfortune, you get happy at it, right?
Schadenfreude.
Exactly.
Damage joy.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, they're how do you say? See, a lot of these afflictive emotions, they're friends with each other, you know. And actually, you know, when you look at attachment, some people have said that when attachment doesn't get what it wants, then anger arises. Right? So think about that, right? You have certain expectations of your partner and they don't meet up with those expectations, then we get angry at them. So a lot of them, they're all buddies. They're all in the same mafia, right? Okay. Going once. Going twice. Okay. Well, okay, good. Thank you very much. So, that cake at the back, I want to cut up to as many pieces as there are people here, and who want cake. Yeah. So anyway, thank you very much for host. What? Huh? Anyway, thank you very much for coming, taking time out of your busy schedule. I hope you learned something. I was trying to just, deal more with the practical level. Yeah, things that we can use in our daily life. So please try to incorporate. Yes.
I did think of one. Who wrote A Fearless Heart?
Thupten Jinpa. Thupten Jinpa used to be and still is, the translator of His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Maybe we'll spell that out. I want it to be spelled.
THU. I'm not sure if they put a P or a B. B. TENJAINPA. The good thing is, even if you make a spelling mistake, Google will be like, did you mean? Okay, so let's just do a little dedication here at the end, because, what's going on?
We're going to have the cake. The cake.
What about it? What about it?
Do you want to offer cake?
Yeah. But we'll dedicate, and then it'll be done, right? And then, we can have cake. Business before pleasure. Okay? So, dedicating the merit is very important, and, just as we, at the beginning of our days, we thought to motivate all of our actions for the benefit of others, then at the end of the day, before one goes to bed, I think it'd be useful just to think, what did I do today? And how do my actions correspond to my initial motivation at the beginning of the day? And think, specifically, what did I do? How was I benefiting others? Those things that we did well, rejoice, become very happy. The things that we didn't do so well, generate a bit of regret and say, I'm going to work on that tomorrow or in the future. And then we can dedicate. So a dedication is a type of prayer whereby we direct the positive energy or the positive actions that we've done toward a specific effect. So the most important is that we dedicate that due to this merit, may all sentient beings be free from all of their suffering and attain the state of enlightenment as quickly as possible. Okay? And then the main cause of attaining enlightenment is generating the mind of bodhicitta. So we also think that due to this merit, may this precious mind of bodhicitta that has not yet arisen arise in my hearts and in the hearts of all sentient beings without even a second's delay. And may that mind of bodhicitta that has already arisen never diminish but increase more and more. And then we dedicate for the flourishing of the Dharma and all of the centers and projects designed to promote and preserve the Dharma. May they have all of their obstacles removed and receive every single required condition such that they may be successful in their activities to benefit others. Particularly here, Tushita in Delhi. And then we also dedicate for the long lives of the spiritual friends, particularly His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And may Tushita here be able to host His Holiness and Lama Zopa Rinpoche very soon. And may all those events be very successful. Then we can also dedicate for there to be no terrorist attacks, quarreling, fighting, disease, natural disasters, or any undesirable thing in this world, or any of the worlds of the universe until the end of samsara. Also no sickness, disease. And that is it. So thank you very much. Enjoy the cake if you wish.